Welcome to this week's Wellness Webcast. I am your host, the lovable Mo Wolf, CEO of Little Honeys LLC, the makers of Bee Rescue Propolis Care and Bee Energized Raw Bee Pollen products. It is Friday yet again. How about that? It's Friday yet again, and guess what? Our old friend, the sweet honeybee, has been in the news. Not just local, not just national, we're talking international news. She has. We're straying off topic today. Mr. Sadler says we're usually off topic. Thank you, Mr. Sadler. No, we're straying off topic today. Normally we pick a wellness topic, something pertinent to health, wellness, and beautiful living. But today we're going to be talking about the honeybee and how she's been in the news lately. She's been involved against her wishes. She's been involved in a massive honey laundering scheme coming out of Germany. Deutschland, yeah? She has been involved in an attack in China, where she's coming under attack from the Asian hornet. It's been a busy few weeks for the honeybee, and this is October, man. She's supposed to be winding down. She's supposed to be settling in, propolizing her digs, so that way she can, stay warm and cuddle up with her siblings and stay warm all winter long. But no, she's been busy. So let's just get right into it. Enough jumping around. Mr. Sadler, drum roll, please. Very good silent drum roll. We're low budget here. We can't afford a drum set. Nor would we want to, because none of us know how to use it. There we go, drum roll. That's what you call the low budget drum roll. Bloomberg Business Week. Oh, we don't like business. Well, too bad. My show. In Bloomberg Business Week, September 19th, 2013. Article by Susan Burfield. Sorry, Susan. It's almost tradition now on this show. If you've written an article and it's, mildly questionable as to how to pronounce your name, I will choose the wrong option. It's just the way it is. There's nothing insidious meant by it. It's just ignorance. So Susie Q wrote in Bloomberg Business Week, "The honey launderers uncovering the largest food fraud in United States history." Bum, 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 bum. And it starts out talking about Magnus von Budenbach and Stephanie Giselbach arrived in Chicago in 2006 full of hope. He was 30, she was 28, and they had both won their first overseas assignment at ALW Food Group. This sounds like a really cheesy Sandra Bullock movie starting out, doesn't it? Oy vey! I'm going to spare you folks by not reading this. It has to do with two young Germans coming to Chicago. It has to do with honey and gum Arabica and candy and soft drinks and bulletproof vests and a chain-smoking Chinese middleman. Hey, this is actually getting pretty exciting. Basically what happened is you have this company called ALW, as their friends down in Texas would say, ALW. And they decided to open up an office in Chicago, and they sent these two young whippersnappers, heads full of mush, just out of business school type people, and sent them here to the U.S. to start peddling their wares. And what ALW does is they source ingredients around the world and ship them out to you and import them for you. Well, what they have been accused of and actually found guilty of is taking honey from China and sending it out to places like India, Malaysia, Indonesia, South Korea, Russia, Mongolia, Thailand, Taiwan, and the Philippines. And in each one of these countries, the honey barrels, the containers full of the honey, were often relabeled and even filtered to remove some of the pollen traces from from good old China. How they do that is they heat the living daylights out of it. Sometimes they'll add water to it and then heat the daylights out of it, and then they pull that water off of there after they shoot it through these really fine filters. Doesn't get rid of any of the corn syrup, doesn't get rid of any of the chemically water soluble or lipid soluble type stuff that gets put in there, i.e. the antibiotics. Yeah, I said antibiotics. That's in here. In fact, that's one of the problems with Chinese honey. Back in 2001, Chinese came in and they started undercutting the entire world on their honey price. Whereas it would cost about $1 a pound wholesale for honey here in the United States, you could buy Chinese honey for, between 30 and 45 cents a pound. And that's shipped already in your hands. That's dirt cheap. Well, that started making the price of honey here in the United States just drop out, bottom out. And so the United States government then put tariffs on the Chinese honey, which meant that the Chinese had to start getting around those tariffs and shipping it elsewhere. And if you still wanted Chinese honey, well, you could get it. You just had to pay the taxes. Well, then it got even worse, and then the Chinese got accused of having trace amounts of antibiotics in their honey, which there were. And so then it became, no Chinese honey here in the United States. Well, that didn't stop them. Here you have an extremely cheap commodity. Cheap and dirty, all right. Here you have an extremely cheap and dirty commodity, Chinese honey. And you've got these vast markets around the world, the U.S. being the greatest of all markets. The U.S. consumes more honey every year than anyone else in the world. We consume nearly 400 million pounds of honey every year. About 200 million pounds of that goes into manufacturing of things like your Honey Nut Cheerios and honey flavored this and that. But we consume an awful lot of honey in this country, and that's a good thing. But the problem is the honey that we've been consuming is 99.9% of it yucky stuff. So you have this market vacuum of 400 million pounds of honey every year. The Chinese were going to get a part of that market. So what they began doing is finding companies like ALW, and they started shipping their product out to Russia, India. Now it looks like they've recruited the likes of Malaysia, Indonesia, South Korea, Mongolia, Thailand, Taiwan, and the Philippines. I can say it that way. My wife is from the Philippines, and that's how they say it. Philippines. It's true! So once the honey gets shipped to these other countries, then it's a matter of scraping off product of origin, sometimes repackaging it in different colored barrels, sometimes filtering it through this filtering process to remove any trace amounts of pollen that could be tested for and said, hey, this pollen is from a plant only found in China. We know it's from China. Well, they get rid of that and it's harder to prove. And then it gets shipped around a few more times and the same sort of stuff happens. But oftentimes they're also putting in high fructose corn syrup, some other fillers here and there to, hey, we bought 100 pounds of this Chinese honey for 30 cents a pound, We can buy this sludge right here, this corn syrup, for 10 cents a pound. Let's cut the honey with the corn syrup. Margins just increased. And remember, you're not dealing with hundreds of pounds, you're dealing with thousands and thousands of pounds. So that margin becomes substantial. So because we're dealing with some people who lack, oh, I'll just say it, integrity, it becomes a possibility. So then that honey then gets imported to the United States. And according to this article here, the honey launderers uncovering the largest food fraud in U.S. history, this article in Bloomberg Business Week, the people that were buying it knew full well about the problems with it. They knew that it contained antibiotics that are banned here in the United States. Antibiotics like good old chloramphenicol, chloramphenicol. I can't pronounce pharmaceuticals. Chloramphenicol was a substance that became available in 1949. It's been on the market forever. It's illegal in the United States here. At least it's very restricted. It's illegal for use with veterinary medicine and with bees. They don't use it for bees. Elsewhere in the world they do, though. Well, why would you use an antibiotic for bees? To help control American foul brood disease. It's the same reason why in the United States today we're still using terramycin on bee colonies as an industry. That was one of the things that our family decided we would never do, is utilize antibiotics on our bees. We utilized that whole concept of genetics instead, as I've talked about on other shows. But this chloramphenicol is, in developing nations, it's cheap, it's easy to manufacture it, and it's used as a first-line agent for infections in these developing nations, i.e. China. But the problem is it's overused. It's not used as appropriately as it should be, which means that you have a resistance problem. These bacteria that are being treated with it are building resistance to it. And so not only do you have a resistance issue, but you also have adverse effects of using this stuff. This antibiotic that has been found in this Chinese honey, that good old ALW was shipping around the world and bringing into the United States. Well, what are some of the adverse effects of chloramphenicol? That's fun to say. Mr. Sadler, you should try that. Chloramphenicol. Some of the adverse effects are aplastic anemia, bone marrow suppression, toxicity of the bone marrow basically, leukemia, and in children, gray baby syndrome. These are just some of the effects. Because it's lipid soluble, it crosses that blood-brain barrier very easily, and you end up with this antibiotic getting everywhere in the body. Well, that's what they were finding in this Chinese honey. That's a banned substance here in the United States, and they're getting it in this Chinese honey. And then getting that Chinese honey brought into the United States by lying about its country of origin. Well, thankfully, these people at ALW are probably serving jail time. I know they had a big fine. Bottom line is, as I've been telling you over and over throughout this last year, be careful where you buy your honey from. Make sure you know your beekeeper. If you're buying honey from one of those big conglomerations, be careful. Because it's probably loaded with this garbage. It's probably got a very dark history. Shifting gears. Mr. Sadler, what do you think of when I say the word Vespa? Vespa mandarinia. I can't even speak Latin today. Vespa mandarinia. Can't even speak English. What do you think of when I say Vespa mandarinia? No, it's not a Chinese-made scooter, but good try. Thank you for playing. Ding, ding, ding. This is what he's won, a lifetime supply of rice-a-roni. And an all-expenses-paid trip to South Beloit. South Beloit, lovely this time of year. Vespa mandarinia is a monster. And no, I am not talking about a senator. I am talking about Vespa mandarinia, the Asian hornet. She is a hornet about 2 inches long. You may have seen documentaries on her and her handlers in Japan, the way the Japanese government has been studying it, and some of the havoc she wreaks on bee colonies. Well, Vespa mandarinia, the cousin to the Japanese Vespa japonica, as I understand was her name, Vespa mandarinia is wreaking havoc in China. It's killing people in China. According to NBC, China struggles to control spate of hornet attacks as deaths rise, by Ed Flanagan. That's an unfortunate name, Flanagan. Couldn't it have been just Flanagan? Well, I guess it was Flanagan. Maybe that first grade teacher was right. Anyway, Ed Flanagan, a producer, the bigwigs at NBC Snooze, wrote, Beijing authorities in northern China are struggling to control a spate of attacks by aggressive hornets that have now killed 42 people and injured 1,640. Did you get that? Attacks of these hornets, big guys, about like that. Our hornets here in the States typically are about that big. Well, the bald face can get about like yay. These dudes run about that big. It's killed 42 people, and they don't tell us the time span, but I'm assuming it's within recent time period. And injured over 1,640. Now, the people that have been hardest hit are in the provinces of Shaanxi and the Henan provinces. You've got the Mongolia, the Mongolian steppes up in here. You've got the Gobi Desert. You've got that arid country, and then coming down into where it starts to become farmland, and then into the rich, fertile belly of China. Well, it's right up here between that rich, fertile belly and that more arid country in China. This hornet has everybody scared spitless. I said spit. It's got everybody scared because, number one, these things kill people. It's killing more people than the Africanized bee. We get scared. Ooh, killer bees! Well, this hornet is a sight meaner. Also, this hornet is carnivorous. One of the problems they had in Japan was it was killing all of their beehives. One of these hornets can go in and kill up to 40 honeybees a minute. That's pretty fast. And because they're so big and mean, it's difficult for the honeybees to counter that attack. A hornet, whether it's, I don't care whether it's Vespa mandarinia, Vespa japonica, bald-faced hornet like we have here in the United States, I don't care what kind it is, their suit of armor is so tough that the honeybees can't sting through it. And so the honeybees can't kill it. And so what the honeybees do, they've been given this wonderful ability to cook the hornet. And so what they do is they say, oh, come here, we're sweet honeybees, come on, give us a hug. And that hornet goes in there and, I'm gonna get you. Interesting little side note, Mr. Sadler, you may not have known this, but all of these giant hornets, I don't care whether it's the Vespa mandrinia, Vespa japonica, their swinging European cousin, they all speak like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, I will crush you. Anyway, this giant hornet goes into the beehive. I'm going to get your little brood to feed to my brood. And all of those honeybees say, oh, just come here, let's give you some sugar. Come on, come on. And they pile on it and they give it a big old hug and they're saying, we love you so much. And they're vibrating their flight muscles. And that's the key, because when they start piling onto these hornets, and it's a life and death struggle, don't let me kid you. They're raising the body temperature of that hornet. They're raising the body temperature of that hornet to around 119 degrees. That hornet dies at between 117 and 118 degrees. The honeybee would die at 121 degrees. I'm talking in Fahrenheit for those of you that are watching around the world. The honeybee's been given this wonderful, wonderful ability to protect herself. And she literally cooks the hornet to death. But when you have somebody that much bigger than you, a honeybee might be a ½ inch long, and you got somebody 4 times your size in length, bigger than you in girth, I will crush you. I mean, it's like a wrestling match between Larry King and Arnold Schwarzenegger when Arnie was in his prime. There's just no way. So anyway, China is scared to death because, number one, that they've got to keep up exports of their dirty honey around the world, which is actually a big industry for them in China. And you've got this hornet that's on the rampage. Not only is she killing her citizens, China's citizens, it's also killing their bees, and is becoming more widespread. This hornet isn't just limited to China. This hornet isn't just limited to Asia. They've had some problems in France where this, I think it was France, I know they've had, let me rephrase that, back up. They've had problems in Europe where this hornet has been found coming over in container ships and has gotten loose. So now guess what, Europe? You've got her. All of your bees are at risk now thanks to this hornet. All of your people are at risk thanks to this hornet. This is not a friendly creature. Now Europe, you guys have your own hornet. You guys have the European hornet. A pretty big hornet as it is. Not as big as her Asian cousin. And not as mean as the Asian cousin. This Asian hornet is sassy. She is meaner than a junkyard dog. She's meaner than a baseball player on roid rage. That's a cheap shot. But if you're a fan of the show and you've watched the show at all, you know cheap shots do occur. So you've got this hornet going crazy across Asia, now in Europe, and here in the United States we're not really saying much because, we've got, well, for heaven's sakes, we're overloaded with all kinds of problems right now. Our government's shut down. But we've got a real threat, because if this hornet could make it to Europe, she can make it here. And if you look at what part of China she is really exploding in right now, you'll know she could make it anywhere in the United States. If you have been up on what's going on with the spread of invasive exotic arthropods, you will know that we already have the European hornet here. In fact, in the last couple years, right here in Janesville, Wisconsin, we've had more and more of these European hornets being sighted. Starting to freak people out. Nobody's been nailed by them. The European hornet isn't nearly as sassy, but we're starting to get more and more of them. What I'm trying to say is, if the European hornet can make it here from a similar climate as to where these Asian hornets are coming from, that Asian hornet can make it here too. And she's a greater threat to our honey industry than the European hornet. As a beekeeper, we already have problems with predators on our bees. You've got the bears, you've got the skunks, you've got all kinds of mammals that try to feed on your bees and their honey. But you also have the bald-faced hornet, you've got yellow jackets, you've got other arthropod threats. The praying mantis that likes to sit out there and we've got all kinds of threats already. We don't need this Asian hornet, but I'll bet you dollars to donuts we'll get her. So keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled for the news, and be careful out there, folks. Wanted to share with you something wonderful. I mentioned that, you know, here in the United States, our government's on shutdown, that we've had all kinds of bad news going on. That's not the website that I want. That we've had all kinds of negative news. I want to share with you something that will, if you've got a soul, put tears in your eyes. It was found on our Facebook page. Someone by the name of Tila, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. This dear lady wrote on our Facebook, our Bee Rescued Facebook page. She says, "Your Bee Rescued Propolis Rescue Balm." This stuff. She says, "Your Bee Rescued Propolis Rescue Balm helped save my life. During the darkest, coldest, and most painful period of my Lyme's disease infection, your, quote, magic salve," that's their household nickname for this right here, "was the only thing that made the pain in my joints go away. I have probably used 5 of them in the last year and will always keep it handy. Like my mom says, don't be afraid to use it liberally. It's worth not hurting." Let me ask you folks, is it worth not hurting? How many of you have dealt with chronic muscle pain, chronic joint pain? I'm not saying this is going to heal the problem. I'm saying this is going to help with that symptom of pain. That's how I am going to be able to tell you about this. This right here is going to be very, very good at helping to relieve that pain. As dear Tila just spoke to us about. Is it worth not hurting? Do you have a family member that's in pain? Is it worth to you to get this to help that family member manage their pain, get rid of that pain? Is it worth it to you? We wrote back to Tila and we said, "Thank you for letting us know that our rescue balm was a blessing to you. We are grateful for your kindness." And she wrote back, Tila, bless your heart, she wrote back, "Thank you for sharing your talents with us. More people should know about the good work you do." We're a small family company. We can't afford huge budgeting, huge advertising budgets. That's why one of the reasons why we started doing this webcast was so that we could start sharing with you just how special these products are. We're a small family company. If our products, our rescue balm, our toothpaste, our lip balm, our eye cream, our hand lotion, our shave gels, our pollens, any of our products have been a blessing to you and your family, please let us know on Facebook. Please call us. Please write us. Number one, it helps our souls. It helps remind us that we're doing the right thing. Number two, when you put it out there on social media, that helps us, because that tells others how special these products are. So Tila, thank you so much for your kindness, because you're stepping up to the plate and telling us about how our rescue balm has helped you with your pain. I'm going to be sending you a case of this. 6 of these. It's on me. You used 5 last year. I want you to be making sure that you're using 6 of them, 1 a month at minimum. As your mama says, don't be afraid to use it liberally. Use it everywhere. Use it preventatively. Don't want to get sick this season? Put it around your neck. Put it under your arms. Put it around all of your lymph nodes. Put it everywhere. Use this tool that my family makes for you, because that's why we make it. We make it for your wellness, for your quality of life. We are out of time. On behalf of all of us here, I want to say thank you for spending this half hour with me. I hope that you've learned something, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. On behalf of all of us here, thank you, and be well.